Bravo bosses. This is the Bravo Investigator Podcast. I'm your host, Dana. And today on our TLC Tuesday, we are talking about 90 Day Fiance Before the 90 Days, Season 8, Episode 8. Let's get into it. Happy Tuesday evening, everyone. I hope everyone's had a great day. It is literally 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is well beyond my bedtime, but I've been sleeping all day. I just had one of those days. Do you guys ever have those days where you just need like 12 hours of sleep? I woke up at like, I don't know, 3 or 4 a.m. I looked at my phone and it's gone after that, right? Like there's no way you're falling back asleep once you look at your phone, especially like in the wee hours of the morning. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work. So never fell back asleep. I listened to More Life with Carl Radke, which is his new podcast. It was good actually. It was with Kyle Cook, obviously. They recorded it on January 3rd, so it was before the announcement of Kyle and Amanda split. But there was actually some information about Kyle that I didn't know, even though I did that deep dive about him. Like I said in the deep dive, I had a lot of difficulty finding any information pre-Summer House about Kyle. Like it was pretty wild. I was like, did he never offend anybody? Did he never get in like a bar fight? Did he never cheat on a girlfriend? Like where are these people? So I thought that was pretty weird at the time. But yeah, so listen to that. That was pretty good. And yeah, today we're going to talk 90 Day. This was, I'd say, more so of like a filler episode, and I'm not going to talk as long as maybe I normally do. I say that now, but who knows? Just because it's sort of late, and I'm kind of groggy, to be honest with you. Today was just such a weird day. I was just like in and out of sleep. I got all of these weird, important calls today that I hope I fully, truly understood, just because I was literally coming in and out of sleep and grogginess when I was having some very important calls. All of that to say, oh, and I might be interviewing someone from a previous Love Island season named Josh Goldstein. Do you guys know this guy? He was from season 2 of Love Island. So I'm curious if you guys know of him. But anyways, I'm going to get some more information about him. He sounds really interesting in terms of his background and stuff. But yeah, that's what we have coming up. Oh, and then of course, tomorrow, Wednesday, is for the Patreons. We've got Vanderpump Rules from the beginning. I think we're on the finale. I think we're on the finale of season 1, which is crazy to think about it. So that's patreon.com/the Bravo Investigator Podcast. And then also I've got to get done this month, so I only have a few days left. For the $10 tier of the Patreon, which is for Bravo CEOs, you get everything that you get under the $5 tier. So 4 extra podcast episodes, ad-free episodes, early episodes, and bonus content. It also gets you 1 documentary a month. It gets you a special shout out on the pod and more direct access to me. So this month's documentary is going to be about Elizabeth Smart. It's on Netflix, and I will be getting that out in the next few days as well. And then on Thursday, we will be doing Southern Charm and Real Houses of Salt Lake City. Yes, which is actually airing tonight, right now, and I'm missing it. That's okay. We're doing this. We're doing this. But that's what we'll have on Thursday, and joining me will be Yana Firestone. That episode will air a little bit later in the day just because of our time difference. She's in Australia, so it takes us a little bit to get coordinated. And then on Friday, we'll have Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and The Valley Persian Style. Still hate the name of that show. All right. Let's get into our episode. And like I said, I'm going to be a little bit more brief just because of time. Want to get out of here and get back to the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City finale. I'm so excited about that because we're finally going to find out more about Todd and Bronwyn. But okay, we're starting with Scheana and Forrest. So Forrest is obviously in the Philippines. He is very confused because he has just met Sheena's family. Oh, and I want to mention about Scheana and Forrest. Obviously, we've talked about things that are happening online that we're seeing. I think it's probably best for me anyways. I'm going to go forward talking about them as if we have not seen what we've seen online. I'll just say that because otherwise nothing really makes sense. Okay, so Sheena and Forrest. So, like I said, Forrest is very confused because he's at Sheena's parents' home and it seems very beautiful. They seem very nice. They don't seem like they're mistreating her at all. So, he's very confused. He tries to kind of ask her about it, like, why did you tell me they were mistreating you? And she's like, oh, well, there's nothing to worry about because they gave you their blessing. So, everything's all good. Nothing to worry about. But she's not really answering his questions. She's just basically avoiding them and she's doing a good job at it. So this is the day that Molly and Deb are getting there. And the way that Sheena and Forrest are standing outside of the house waiting for them is confusing. It almost seems like they are up against a brick wall, like back to back, like, and they're standing so straight, almost if they're holding their breaths, just waiting for a bomb to explode, which, Molly is in all fairness. But Forrest is just absolutely terrified and worried about which side of Molly is going to come out when she sees how beautiful this house is. And, he would be right to think the chaotic side is going to come out. So Molly and Deb get there and they are confused because, again, the house is beautiful. There's a pool that lights up at night and it's a bed and breakfast, right? But like it's our understanding that Sheena is contributing to repairs to the bed and breakfast. And there's been obviously some like natural disasters and stuff. And she'd been helping out with, yeah, just like fixing up the property. So they all have dinner together, and Molly does what Molly does and flat out addresses the family. And, I have to give Molly a little bit of grace here because, as chaotic as she is and as inappropriate as she is when she talks about the nookie nookie and when she basically like reams Sheena out for lying in other scenes, I thought she was fairly respectful to Sheena's family, which I'm so happy about because, like, I just didn't want there to be something like extremely mean or disrespectful happening just because of the culture and all of that. So I thought that she really was kind to them and handled it very well. So first she asks if they're okay with Sheena moving to the US. And Sheena's sister, because remember, her mom isn't there. It's just her mom, or sorry, her sister and her dad because the mom is sick. But I still feel like that's strange because we're not going to meet the mom at all. Like, is there a reason for that? She's just not going to come out whatsoever. Is it a cameras thing? Because is she not a big part of everyone's decisions and lives here? Like, what if she's the one mistreating everybody? But obviously, that's not what's happening because, yeah. So, first they ask if they're okay with Sheena moving to the US. And her sister says, well, that's always been Sheena's dream. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And you see Sheena sort of like sheepishly kind of like cower a little bit. And then Molly talks about Sheena telling them that, well, she told us you would take her money. And if you didn't give it to her, that you would mistreat her, that you would kick her out, that you would call her names. And Sheena's dad is like, did you say that? And then Sheena just starts like blubbering and crying and apologizing for lying. And she admits that she lied because she was scared that she was going to lose Forrest. So she explains that she gives her family money, but she was also trying to save for the K1 visa, but it's never enough. And saving has just been so hard for her. Then her dad also clarifies that it's always been a loan as well. So they were never like taking the money forever, which is also a very important additional point. This is just wild. Like, I really liked Sheena for so long. And to find out that Molly was actually kind of right pisses me off. Like, who wants to think that this conspiracy theorist was sort of a little bit right? Like, I don't think she's trying to take Forrest or anything like that, but she's not telling the truth. And there is something to be said about that when it comes to a relationship. If somebody is so comfortable, well, she's not comfortable, obviously, but if somebody is willing to carry on lying and lying and lying to you for years and years and years, that's a big deal, right? It says something about their character and it sucks. Now, the sister also says that also the sister also says that they were aware that she was saving for the visa, but they didn't really talk about it. She didn't really give them any information about it. So they weren't really sure even like how much it was or what was really going on with that. So Forrest asks if they can actually give her the money back soon, if that was like a possibility. I kind of wish he hadn't asked for that, but I guess he's curious. Well, like if this is a loan, well, then can she have it back? And they were like, well, we have to look into our finances. Now, Sheena's dad tells the camera that the guy should be the one providing, and they weren't expecting Sheena and Forrest to be asking for the money back. And fair enough, that's like a conversation that obviously he needs to be having with Sheena. And Forrest shouldn't be the one asking for it. Quite frankly, it's not even his money. That's the bottom line, right? This is not even Forrest's money. He hasn't contributed it to it one bit. And I guess I do also have to mention that when Molly brought this all up, it was Steve, Sheena's dad, who initially said, well, I kind of want to talk about the fact that Forrest doesn't have any finances. And she's like, can we put Forrest's finances to the side for a second and talk about Sheena, which they did, but we never came back to Forrest, right? Now, it's my understanding, and I just said we're not going to talk about real life, but it's my understanding that in real life, he does have a job now, which is great. But it just doesn't really make sense to me why he wasn't working for years. I mean, he provided that explanation about being on disability, but I mean, I just feel like there's so many jobs that he could have done. And if they really have been in this relationship for 7 years, didn't he want to find some way to be able to contribute in some way to this, right? Like, why was saving the visa completely on her? If he couldn't work in a conventional way, like he couldn't find any other way to make money. It just, I think, I want to give Sheena a little bit of grace. And, this whole thing was about her being fearful of losing Forrest. And I think that there was a lot of pressure placed on her financially, right? Like, it doesn't sound like her family was like forcing her to do anything, but at the same time, she wanted to help. Plus, she was supposed to be trying to save for the visa. Plus, she was supposed to be, doing other things and paying her other additional bills. So that's a lot of pressure on her when she wanted him to work. We heard her say that last week. You could see that there was some resentment in her too, being like, he should work and he should be helping too. So I think all of that combined just made her kind of like explode, I guess. But this ain't good. Like, this really just is not good. All right, let's move on to Daniel and Lisa. And this is just a hilarious scene. So they're getting ready to go meet his uncle to get his blessing. And Lisa has to wear like the proper Nigerian garb. So it's like this paper wrap that she has to wear over her head, but it's really confusing because it's almost like, I guess, like a long scarf in a way, but it's made of like crepey paper. So it doesn't really have structure. And it's confusing. And I feel bad for her because it's really hard to put on. Daniel's trying to help her, but she's also wearing a wig, keep in mind. So it must be so difficult to get it to stay on your head. And remember a couple weeks back when she was buying clothes for this, the sales lady told her that she was too fat for the regular one, so they had to make her a special one. Like, that must feel great. So in their joint confessional, Daniel tells Lisa not to lie, not to be a liar. And Lisa says that they are from different cultures and lies are different in their different cultures. And Daniel's like, no, a lie is a lie. And then they pan to her eyes, and you can see that she is just trying to find any way possible to justify the fact that she has still not told him the number of times that she has been married and that many of those times have been to women, right? Like, the fact that this is going on for this long, like, I do wonder on the production end if they tell them to keep the secret until week whatever. Like, I just wonder what goes on that end. But like, this isn't good because now you're going to be, what's the word? Like, grilled by the uncle. And it's going to be a lot worse saying it to a stranger than it is to Daniel, right? So they go to meet his uncle so he can get to know her because she's not a traditional Igbo woman from the tribe. So he wants to ask her a bunch of questions. So he's like, tell me about yourself. So Lisa says that she is Native American and Irish. She was adopted by a good family. She takes care of her household. When Daniel needs money, she takes care of Daniel's household. And then the uncle asks if she's a Christian. And she says, yes, but she hasn't always been a good one. I thought that was a good answer. And then he asks if she drinks, and she says she drinks some, not much, but some. Then he asks if she smokes, and she says no, she used to, but she gave it up. And then he asks this question, and I think is wild. He says, do you practice lesbianism, right? Like it's witchcraft. And she's like, no, it was one time, because that's what she had told Daniel, that it was like this one time thing, this fling or whatever. And then he's like, do you lie? And she's like, I have lied in the past, but I'm not a liar. And so eventually he says, okay, I'll have Daniel monitor you to make sure you don't do that again. And that's just like so insane to me that there is a culture that looks at same-sex marriage still in this day and age. Like, I know, like, it's just wild to me that we all live on the same planet, quite frankly, sometimes, because I'm just like, even for her, she was taken aback. She was like, I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of my sexuality. I'm not ashamed of it, but here I am being told that it's like no bueno. So, of course, she feels compelled to lie about it. Now, in their joint confessional, they fight over telling the uncle that she slept with a woman. Now, Daniel says he had to tell his uncle, it's required. He tells his uncle everything. And Lisa's like, no, you didn't have to tell him that. There's things that should have been just between you and I. Again, I don't understand their culture. I don't understand why he had to tell him like any of this, right? I more than like, I'm marrying this woman and she's from America. She has a daughter, she does this for work. That's about it. Oh, but there was this one part that was kind of funny where the uncle says to Daniel, I'm going to say this to you in our traditional language because I don't want her to understand it. He says, are you sure that you want to marry this woman? And Daniel says yes. And I still don't really get what the deal is here. I mean, he could not have made it more obvious to us when they got to the hotel the first night that he was not attracted to her. He's a good looking man, right? And like, I don't know. I don't know. This is I obviously know this isn't going to end well. This does not seem like one that's going to. He already believes that her one lesbian attempt was too much. So I cannot imagine that once she comes forward with all of these lies, especially after getting the uncle's blessing, that this is going to go forward. Okay, let's move on to Javon and Anna Lynn. So they're still on their honeymoon, and they had gotten in a fight the night before because Javon told her not to vent about the relationship to his sister. But she sort of feels like, well, how come you can go vent to any bitch, as Anna said? So the next day, Anna tells Javon that she wants to check his phone to see if he's talking to that girl that he was talking to, just to make sure that he kept his promise not to talk to her again. She's sort of worried that these masculinity podcasts have swayed him because they promote cheating. I am still so interested in which podcasts these are. I wonder if it'll come up at the reunion. It probably will. I could see Sean Robinson asking about this because we need to cancel these podcasts. Or I sort of want to listen to them and like rage bait them. I don't know. So she finds nothing bad in his phone, just pictures of his dog and pictures of Anna. So that's kind of cute. And then she realizes that maybe she should cut him a little bit of slack, but she's also learning how to trust him. He's also a dick, man. Like he just is. He is misogynistic at the end of the day. It's weird because it feels like these two have a connection. They definitely have a spark, but maybe that's because they're just so excited to see each other after so long. I really don't know. But we weren't there at the beginning is the problem. Like they've been together for so many years. They're already married. So I just don't feel that sort of like even though they've just met, I feel like there still must be that sort of 7 year itch or like you're just very settled and like kind of but not settled in a good way, settled in like that kind of like angry place with each other. Anna takes Javon for a hello hello, which is a dessert with cheese and corn, which is weird, right? Like I love dessert and I love cheese and I love corn. It sort of looked like, from what I could tell, and it was hard to tell, it looked like a lot of like Jello, and then like you put in cheese and corn, and there was also like pureed yam, other things. I don't know. But she says that she wishes that he would be more open-minded and she's not taking him to an execution. It's just dessert, right? I couldn't really tell if he ended up liking that, but I am very curious about that. It looked interesting. Anna Lynn feels that he's always trying to throw the manly things that he does for her in her face, being like, isn't it something? Aren't I giving something to the relationship or showing you that I'm like there for you? By the fact that the lights are on or the fact that I did this for you. And she's just like, I just don't think you understand my needs. And I think that that's a big problem because if they're not on the same page in terms of like their love languages, basically, then they're just not going to work. She says something about how she feels like he hears her, but he doesn't understand her. And that's a big deal. He, I guess, believes that he is doing what he needs to do in this relationship by giving her XYZ. And she feels like she needs a lot more emotional coddling in a way. Maybe that's a bad word because I don't mean that in any negative way, but she just needs more from him in that regard. Do I think she picks fights with him? Maybe. But I also think that they're not really over this initial fight that happened before he got there, right? About him talking to this like other girl, right? So because she was holding on to all of this anger, I think she's just been angry with him the entire time he's been there, which is fair. All right, let's move on to Laura and Beer Can. And She's starting to realize this guy is no bueno, no bueno at all. They are in the car and they are still fighting about Michael because Birkin wants Michael out of Laura's life. Laura does not like this controlling aspect of him, and he's acting super aloof about it. Like he's very like, you're not going to be friends with him, and that's it. And Laura tells the camera that she does not like to see this controlling side of him. Birkin says, I know men, and I feel that he has feelings for you as more than a friend. And Laura's like, well, I don't agree. Would you be willing to meet him or have a call with Michael? And Bearcat says, like, I don't even want to talk about this anymore. So he basically like shuts down the entire conversation. So this isn't actually an ideal time to have this fight because they're actually on their way to go meet his friends. So they go to this hookah bar, and he apparently goes there like every day because he says that it's like his daily medication. But Laura's like, dude, aren't you in debt? What's happening here? He's so confused. So his friends tell her that there's an unknown side to Birkin. And so we finally get to know what it is because we've been trying to figure this out for weeks. He had his secret. What's the secret? So it's gambling. He apparently gambles every day, and he says that it's what he does for a living. But is it? Because you are in debt, right? And it's funny that this comes up now because I was just on Up and Adam the other day, I think yesterday, with Adam Newell. And we were talking about Bethany Frankel and whether she had any family money. And I was like, I don't know. I thought she was poor because her dad was always taking her to the racetrack. And Adam was like, well, doesn't that mean that they're rich? They have money to like bet on horses. And I'm like, well, it's gambling, right? Gambling's an addiction. What if you have this bookie? What if you have all of these debts because you all owe all this money to your bookies? And that's sounds like what's happening here, right? Like it sounds like maybe that's how he got into debt because listen, we know that he's in debt, which I thought was student debt. Okay, I could be wrong about this, so don't come at me if I am, but definitely send me a message or leave me a comment in on the YouTube comments or on the Spotify comments. Why is he in debt? Is it student debt or do we not know the reason for the debt? Because now I'm like, is the reason for the debt gambling? Because we have two things here. He's in debt, and then in order to try to get money when he's in debt is gambling. Or is it the other way around? Does he gamble and that's why he's in debt? Do you see what I'm saying? So kind of confusing here. Birkin tells his friends that he's waiting for the right time to tell Laura, and they start talking about this in Turkish without translating for Laura, which is super rude. And now she's just like, what is going on here? I just have more questions than I have answers, and I don't know. So in my opinion, this is just getting worse and worse, right? Like he's being super controlling about Michael and very, like I said, aloof about it, but also controlling. Also like, no, that's it. You're not talking to him again. He's in debt and then he gambles. Oh, and he also thought that his debt would just go away if he moved to America. So there's also like this skeevy look on his face that I've been noticing lately. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I've really been noticing it where ever since she's been there, he has like this sly smile where I don't know, there's like an upturn of his lip in the corner where I almost feel like it's like a devilish thing. It's like a devious thing where he's thinking, I'm really going to take this woman for everything that she has. That's just sort of what it felt like for me. But I am over Birkin and I am missing Michael on days like this. All right, let's move on to our last couple, Rick and Trisha. This motherfucker is just really out there ruining women's lives. I can't even tell you. So he tells Trisha that he's excited to bring a stepmommy home to his kids and have a family, a unit of just the four of them. Dude, they have a mom. They have a mom. You brought her over on a K-1 visa. It's wild. And Trisha's like, no, I want my own kids. And she has been very vocal and transparent about that this whole time. And that's what's annoying about this, because when you meet online, the whole point is to get to know each other and determine whether you even want to be together based on whether you have like the same like goals and vision and want to do the same things with your lives. But this guy, no, he saw like a hot woman and he was like, her, please. And even though we saw in the very first episode her saying, I want kids, and him being like, I don't know, here we are. Why are we here? Why are we here? Rick, you know that you don't want any more kids, but he's not full out saying that to her because he wants to be able to have sex with her until the last possible moment. So he's like, well, I'm not in a position right now to have more kids, but like, I'm not really ready to make a decision, because she's actually pushing him on that too. And as she should, she's like, listen, you came all the way here. We need to make some decisions. We've been avoiding some conversations, but let's have them now. Are you willing at any point to have kids? And that's when he's like, well, I'm not willing to make that decision right now. And she's like, well, you have to, because that's where we are in this. Now, for her, this is a huge deal breaker. She absolutely wants to have kids. In her culture, she's expected to have kids. She's literally like a midwife, right? So she feels like if he flat out tells her that he does not want any more kids, then she might be done with him. Also, he still hasn't told her about going to Colombia to see his ex, which it looks like he's going to be telling her next week. And again, based on what I see online, which I told you I wouldn't get into, I don't think they're still together, but come on. Now, he says he can't close the door on wanting kids, and it's just not fair because he's not being honest with her. He literally just wants to drag this out to the very, very end. So they are supposed to be meeting her dad tomorrow, but we learned that Trish has not told her dad how old Rick is, which is apparently older than her dad, and that he has kids and all of this. So I mean, that's confusing, because you would think that she would sort of prepare him for something so shocking, but maybe it's not really important to her family. Maybe her family doesn't really care about age. Maybe they welcome a person coming into the family with lots of children. I really have absolutely no idea, but he feels a little worried, uncomfortable about it. And you know what, man? As you should, because you are a sex tourist. You are a sex tourist. Okay, guys, that is the end of the episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. You can follow me on Threads, Instagram, and TikTok at The Bravo Investigator. Join my Facebook group. It is linked in the show notes. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, also linked in the show notes. Subscribe to the Patreon, which is patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. And I love you, BBs. I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Bravo Investigator Podcast. For more content, head over to patreon.com/The Bravo Investigator Podcast. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Bravo Investigator. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. Love you, BBs. See you next time.